Hey, welcome to the final episode on this tail build, and you get to watch me either finish it or scrap it. Stick around. What I'm working on here is I've got a tail light, and I'm thinking I want to keep it mounted to the subframe rather than the tail. Then every time you remove the tail, you've got to unplug it. So if I can mount it to the subframe like this, then I can remove and replace the tail without having to mess with any electrics. So what I'm considering here is just putting a piece of flat bar across the back. That'll give me something to mount the tail light to. And then when I put the tail on, I'll show you what I've got in mind. And hopefully you can see that mark there. That's the shape of that tail light. So what I'm going to do, see those marks going right down, is I'm going to make that shape flow in the tail. So from behind, it's going to look like when that tail light is recessed inside, it's this Frenched-in tail light. This is the tail as it sits. I thought I'd be clever and embed the tail light in there, give myself a nice little Frenched area to have that light emit from that point. The problem is I'm not really in love with it. And I guess that's part of the issue here, is that the perfectionist in me just always tweaks and tweaks and tweaks till I'm totally happy with the job. And now I'm finding that I'm putting that out in the world, and you guys are seeing what's actually going on behind the scenes. So here's my latest thought process on this tail. Maybe you can see there on the sides, I've drawn some marker lines in. A few different ideas. Originally I thought, well, maybe I'll change the angle to come down and across. So I think what I'm gonna do is change that angle to be a bit more extreme, that I don't have such a fat ass end on this bike. It'll be nice and narrow across the back here, nice little strip. It'll get rid of the Frenching in. It'll still be high enough to let you see that tail light from the rear when the bike's being ridden. So that's where I'm headed with it. And you know what? If that doesn't work, I'll be scrapping and starting over. So let's see where this leads me. Tail's done, the seat pan's done. I'm starting to carve out the front of the tank where the key goes. That's going to be a concave kind of design that kind of leads up to the key, and it's going to go around it on both sides, so that'll be the top. What I've decided is the back, when I've got this tail on, you can see that the tank is quite a bit wider than the tail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to section the tank out here. I'm going to wedge that out right up to the back. We're going to bring the tank in tighter, And I'm also going to get rid of this flat spot. I've made the decision that I just don't like the way the seat's going to look going up the front of the tank. So I'm going to round that out and finish the tank to look like a proper rounded back tank. That'll bring it in narrow at the back to match the narrow tail. And here's what I ended up with at the back now. So very, very short piece for that wedge instead of the thick one I had. The scallop that's there and the embedded tail light. I decided just to run it there. And what'll happen is up underneath in this location here will be where I mount my license plate. So it'll be buried up inside. We'll have the signals here on either side of the license plate. So that'll be really clean. And from a side profile, it'll look like a race bike with all the tail and everything underneath. The tail light underneath. All right, well, thanks for following along and watching me screw up. The good news is I didn't have to scrap the tail. I'm happy with the way it turned out now. When I do the modifications to the tank, I think everything's gonna really come together. So thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you have a great holiday, Christmas, New Year's. I'll catch you in the new year for sure. I have another new project that's in the shop that if you're following my Instagram, you already know about it, but it's a very cool vintage bike that I'll be working on as well. So there'll be videos going back and forth between both projects. Anyway, thanks again, and I'll see you next year. Cheers, bye.